Well, tax season is in full swing and has collided with headlines about IRS layoffs and cuts.
But what does it all mean for your return and refund? Karen Kafa explains what taxpayers need to know.
Despite all of the headlines around the IRS right now, tax experts say things are moving smoothly when it comes to returns so far. But they also recommend filing early, filing electronically, and maybe having a little more patience this year. Last week, the IRS was expected to start layoffs of more than 6,000 employees as part of the Trump administration's broader cuts to the federal workforce at the agency's busiest time of year.
We know that when the IRS is understaffed, as it was in the 2010s, it makes refunds slower. It means they have a hard time answering their phones if you've got questions.
Vanessa Williamson, a senior fellow in governance studies at the Brookings Institution, says the cuts could impact important taxpayer resources.
There's some evidence that a lot of the cuts are going to come to people who help small business owners who have some of the most complicated taxes of anyone. So if you haven't filed, I recommend you file as soon as possible.
Tom O'Sabin, Director of Tax Content and Government Relations at the National Association of Tax Professionals, says amid leaner IRS staffing, taxpayers should try to limit the need for person-to-person contact with the agency.
What it means is if there's any possibility to electronically file your return, do so. Whether you're using a tax professional or you're filing or you're on your own, or you use the direct file system, which is relatively new at the IRS, try to submit your return electronically.
O'Sabin adds the careful preparation can also minimize omissions and errors that could take longer to correct. And no matter the headlines, he says, to complete that return.
In reading a lot of these social media posts and the like, there's been some talk about waiting to file or don't bother to file. I think that's a fool's recommendation.
Another reason to file sooner rather than later this year, Congress faces a March 14th deadline to fund the federal government or risk a government shutdown, which could potentially impact the functions of the IRS. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.